The next morning, the mist outside the window seemed particularly thick, and I felt no desire to head to school. A persistent, anxious thought echoed in my mind. What if, by the time the final bell rang and I returned home, money was already gone? The fear of separation weighed heavily on my heart, but Dad gave me a firm, gentlemanly promise that we would visit the aunt's neighbor together. Monica had already grown accustomed to my sudden silence lately. It was nearly impossible to get a word out of me. However, by the third lesson, the weight of my secrets became unbearable, and I could no longer keep it all inside. I shared the distressing news my aunt had brought, and Monica responded with genuine sympathy. "If you ever need to hide Monty, our doors are always open to him," she offered. Those words allowed me to breathe a little easier. I knew then that a solution would eventually be found. And yet, as our car crunched over the gravel at my aunt's house, I felt a sudden chill in my stomach. Together, we set off toward her neighbor's estate, and soon a magnificent villa appeared, nestled in the shadows of a splendid old park. The massive gates slowly swung open, allowing us to approach the main entrance. "It seems the owners of this estate want for nothing," Dad remarked quietly, glancing at the architecture. My aunt explained that Mr. Goldstern had amassed a considerable fortune on the stock exchange, but added that he had recently been in a serious accident. She wasn't even certain if he had been discharged from the hospital yet. I hugged Manny tighter, secretly wishing that the house and its master would simply vanish into thin air. The staff, already alerted by the gatekeeper, met us at the very doors. As soon as my aunt explained the purpose of our visit, we were shown inside. Shortly after, we stood face to face with Mr. Goldstern. He was a man of short stature, whose face radiated a rare kind of kindness. To be honest, I had been determined to hate him even before we met, but to my great surprise, my resentment vanished instantly. He proved to be remarkably perceptive, immediately sensing that out of everyone present, it was I who shared the deepest bond with the Labrador. "And what do you call our mutual favorite?" he inquired with a gentle smile. My throat tightened, and I couldn't utter a sound, suddenly realizing that Monty must have had a completely different official name here. "Monty, Dad answered for me, Mr. Goldstern reflected for a moment, and then his face lit up.
Money? Money, that sounds excellent, truly. I like it much better than his former name. Well then, let him remain Money.
I looked at him in sheer amazement. It seemed the conversation was taking a very favorable turn. Deep down, I was also convinced that this was the only name the dog should ever carry. With a nod, Mr. Goldstern gestured for us to follow him into the cozy living room. Mr. Goldstern shared his somber tale with us. It appeared that exactly 11 kilometers from our home, he had been involved in a devastating car accident while traveling with his faithful dog. The impact was so severe that he sustained critical injuries and lost consciousness, only waking up much later in a hospital bed. From that fateful moment on, he had not laid eyes on his beloved companion. He was forced to spend several grueling months in the hospital, and throughout that entire time, he never ceased his search, yet no one could provide a single lead. Monty was surely trying his utmost to find his way back home, I ventured to explain. But it seems he was set upon by other dogs during his journey. That must be why he was only able to make it as far as our garden. I recounted everything I knew of Monty's struggles, including the harrowing incident where he had nearly drowned. Naturally, I remained silent regarding his extraordinary ability to speak, even though I had an intuitive feeling that this man could be trusted. I decided that discretion was the better part of valor. Mr. Goldstern rose from his armchair and approached me. It was only then that I noticed how much he struggled to walk, a painful consequence of the accident. He took my hands in his and looked into my eyes with profound gratitude. "I am truly heartened to know that you were the one to find our companion." At those words, an immense weight was lifted from my shoulders. I love Monty very, very much as well, I stammered, feeling a warm blush creep across my face. I can sense that, and it brings me great joy. My recovery is far from over, and in a few days, I must return to the clinic for several weeks. Therefore, I would be most grateful if you would continue to look after Mani. Naturally, I shall reimburse all expenses. My heart raced with pure delight. Mani was staying. Yet, in the same breath, I felt a deep pang of sympathy for the man standing before me. You must miss him terribly, don't you? I asked. Mr. Goldstern let out a heavy sigh. Indeed, I do. Which is why I would like to ask a favor of you. Would it be possible for you to bring him to the hospital to visit me once a week? My chauffeur will collect you both and see you safely home afterward. I would be delighted. I replied instantly, sincerely wishing to bring him some comfort. I was finding myself liking him more and more. Goldstern then turned to my father. Do you agree to let the dog remain with you, provided Kira visits me weekly? Of course, everything will be at my expense, including any costs you have already incurred or may face in the future. My father offered a polite protest, but Goldstern insisted with such vigor that there was no room for argument. I observed with wonder the aura of authority and strength he radiated. The prospect of visiting him every week filled me with excitement. He was unlike anyone I had ever met. Suddenly, Mr. Goldstern's expression grew weary. It seemed our conversation had exhausted him more than we could have imagined. Sensing this, my aunt began to make preparations for our departure. Mani placed his head on Mr. Goldstern's lap with extraordinary tenderness. The dog, possessing a keen intuition, sensed how frail and exhausted his former master had become. The man lightly rang a silver bell, and servants appeared almost instantly. We shared our farewells and left the villa. After dropping my aunt off at her doorstep, we headed straight home. While Dad recounted every detail of our journey to Mom, Mani and I slipped away toward the forest.